Why do you have to have a mortgage in the middle of London, in Kensington Street, wherever? Why do you have to do that? You don't have to. It's what you want to do. And this is what I'm
Mm,
saying, that people need to understand that the Dharoorah, the necessity, has to be a genuine necessity. Is there genuinely a necessity for you? The
mhm.
price of Ethereum in Bitcoin price, if it can't beat its previous high price, it's dead. And its previous high price was 0.14 or 1, no, 0.16 Bitcoin. So one Ethereum back in 2017 got as high as 0.16 Bitcoin, one Ethereum. This cycle, the highest it got was 0.08. So that's like 50% almost less than what you got last time. That's a clear-cut sign that the coin is dead.
So, when you said you're selling your future energy, you're selling your future freedom as well, because then
Yep,
these are the
yep.
same people that 10 years later, they're going to be like, brother, how can we make Hijrah when we got mortgages and we've got 3 kids living here and stuff? And then it all goes back to that decision that you made 10 years ago when you were on the hype train.
Bro,
So,
I think AI as a broad topic is basically a tool. And all these tools that mankind makes are means to improve efficiency. If you look at mankind from the time of Adam to this day, all that we do as human beings is find more efficient ways of doing what we have done before.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم
Assalamu alaikum all, and welcome to another episode of the Optimized Muslim podcast. Today, alhamdulillah, with me, I have for the second time Sheikh Muaawiyah Tucker. Assalamu alaikum wa
Walaikum
rahmatullahi wa
salam wa
barakatuh.
rahmatullah. How are you, brother? Thanks for having me on again. Having me on the second time means you definitely loved the first time.
I definitely loved it, and also the audience definitely loved it as well, mashallah.
Alhamdulillah.
And I actually got this from blogging theology, really. The whole idea of interviewing people for like second time, or getting people on for like kind of presentations, I guess. This isn't like a presentation, but it gave me an idea for the future. So for the audience watching, the last episode was a lot more comprehensive. It included stuff about Sheikh Muawiyah's background, upbringing, education, how he got interested in Bitcoin. What is Bitcoin? Is it halal? Ethereum? How he's a Bitcoin maxi, and a lot of in-depth stuff that I got a lot of feedback from people saying that this was really interesting. Like they weren't really necessarily expecting an episode on Bitcoin and stuff like that. So I'm very much going to not touch on necessarily the topics that we've already discussed, obviously. So I'll link all that in the description, and you can use the highlights from that episode to view those. In this episode, I'm going to be picking Sheikh Muawiyah's brain on like the development since then, because it's almost 2 years. It was in March 2021.
Oh, wow.
So March 2021, I think it was still on the incline, and everyone had that optimism, and like Bitcoin's gonna go. You made a famous prediction actually that Bitcoin's gonna be 1 million or 10 million in 10 years, right? And
Mhm.
so I just want to first of all get your take on like if you could summarize the developments just from like a kind of price action perspective, and like how the general feel of Bitcoin within like the crypto community is, and how that's changed over the last like 18 months or whatever it is. And then we'll build off of that, inshallah.
Well, I mean, first thing I would say is that I think it's like how can I explain? It's like the stages a person goes through in this space, I guess you could say. Almost everyone who's been involved in Bitcoin at some stage has gone through the pretty much the same phases. The first phase would be, you first discover Bitcoin, like, wow, Bitcoin is so great, and yeah. And then the next stage is usually, oh wait, there's other coins and they also go up and they do this and do that, and this one's got faster blocks and this one is program and this one and this one and this one, and you kind of go into altcoin forest, and then you start throwing money on this one, throwing money on that one, and then the next stage is where you realize, wait, all these, most of these coins are scams and rubbish and nonsense, and then you say, okay, wait, I'm just gonna choose a few good ones that are really good and ignore the rest. And then the final stage, I would say, the final stage where you realize actually the only coin that matters is Bitcoin. That's the mature. I've been there, done that. I realize now that all the other coins out there are trying to compete with the winner. And then you essentially just forget all the others. You know what? Forget all these other coins. They're waste of time, waste of space. Anything that you want, any idea you could do, you can do it on Bitcoin. And these other coins are essentially just ways to either scam you or scam others, or to be honest, or to build something genuine that doesn't need to be a separate blockchain. That's basically what it is. This is essentially what a lot of people get distracted with, is that they feel, oh, this has got a good project, this has got a good roadmap. I like where these guys are going, and blah blah blah. And a lot of these ideas are good ideas. Great. If that's a good idea, if it's a good product market fit, then do it. But you don't need a blockchain for it. You don't need a separate coin to do it. You don't need some initial coin offering. You don't need to stake anything. If you want to do your thing, you do your thing, but there's no need to reinvent the wheel to do so. You can just use the already existing wheel. And I'll give you one example. There's one project which I really like. It's not a Bitcoin project. It's a crap coin project. So I didn't want to say that. I didn't say that what I wanted to say. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying, bro? I didn't say that.
You've
But
halalified it. That's good,
I
actually.
clarified it, yeah. But there was a project. Basically, the idea was, if I have a computer connected to the internet, I have bandwidth. I have data coming into my computer, and I have data coming out of my computer. So that's bandwidth. And I could capitalize on that bandwidth and add anonymity to data traffic. So you want to access the internet, but you don't want to access the internet directly, so that therefore the servers know who you are. You want to have your data anonymized. A bit like Tor. Anyone knows about Tor protocol? You send your data into the Tor network. It bounces your data around into this private network, and it comes out the other end where you want it to go. And then vice versa, the data comes back into the Tor, bounces around inside there, and it comes back to you. So the servers don't know where it's coming from, because it just came from the Tor network. So that kind of obfuscates and hides you behind this network. So they wanted to do the same thing, but rather than having these voluntary nodes, which is what happens with Tor, Tor nodes, or little these computers that bounces your data around anonymously, they're voluntary. Sometimes some of them are even universities. It could be even you at home. You can run a Tor node. Rather than being a voluntary thing, monetize it, so that therefore whoever uses your bandwidth pays you a small fraction of money on your bandwidth. So you can actually have your computer sitting there earning revenue. How? By people using your internet privileges to bounce around data. So you add in anonymity. So imagine you're in an oppressive country that doesn't allow you to access the internet. You can enter this network, and you can essentially access the World Wide Web that way. It's like a VPN, but more than a VPN. So the idea is great. It's sound. It's perfect. But they have their own coin. So essentially, every time you use one of those hops, you're paying someone in their own coin. So I said to the developers, why don't you just use Bitcoin? I mean, the idea is great. You're not even programming on the blockchain, just using this coin as a means to transact. So you could essentially just use Bitcoin rather than pay these people in your own coin, pay them in the Bitcoin. And I got no reply, because there's a reason why they're using their own coin, because they want to have their own coins that they issue at the beginning, push the price up to the value that you may think is worth, so they can sell at a profit. That's essentially what it is.
Yeah.
And that's the problem with all these projects, is that they're essentially at the very core, they're not necessarily incentivized to even finish the product. They're only incentivized enough to produce enough value, or to do enough marketing, so they can sell their own coins. Which is why 99.9% of them are scams, because they're only there to dump their coins in the market. So you're the simple mug who's bought their coin, and they're the ones who printed them for free and dumped it onto you, and then they get their money. That's why a lot of these coins, these projects, just end up dead in the water, because they've made their money. They've sold all their coins. They don't have to work anymore. It's finished. So the Bitcoin route of doing it, the way of building the same thing in Bitcoin, would be that you have a product like a normal business. You produce a working, viable product for people to use, and then once you have a product that works, you charge for the use of that product. That's normally how business works. You charge for something you produced. You don't earn the money before the work. You earn the money after the work. And that's why you find out these people, when you suggest these things to these companies or to these projects, why don't you just use Bitcoin? They don't want to do that because it's a more longer term approach. You have to wait.
Mm.
Your project has to be successful. You have to actually have revenue. You have to actually manage resources. You have to actually pay for staff. You have to do these things while you're earning nothing, and that's usually what puts people off. And this is where I suggest that. Well, I put forward a case that the only real coin you should be worrying about is the only decentralized coin that exists, where there is no central point of someone who's printed coins and just want to dump it in the market. These are just open coins that are there for anyone to earn and do commerce with, much like gold and silver. You know, there's no gold company out there that's benefiting from making gold out of thin air. Everyone who gets gold has to actually earn it in the first place, and their work that they do to earn it is the reason why they deserve that reward. If that makes sense. So that's a bit of a rant, but that's essentially the last stage of everyone. I'm just giving everyone a heads up. If you're new to this space, you're going to go through the same stages. You hear about Bitcoin. Oh, great. Bitcoin is so great. And then you hear, oh, wait, there's other coins. And you're like, oh, wait, I can make lots of money with other coins. And then the final stage is, wait, this is all a scam. Bitcoin is money. It's a better form of money than fiat. And that is the main message. Not that I'm going to become a millionaire from Bitcoin, but that Bitcoin is a better way of doing business and commerce and having money. That's the main message you need to understand. Anyway, rant over. I don't want to take away from your
No, that's great.
time.
So, Jazakallah khair. I think because I was in that zone as well, I feel like I've kind of got to that place. I think now there's a lot less hype because obviously
Yeah.
the market's low and stuff. So,
And this is actually the best time, by the way. This time in the markets is actually the best time in the markets. When it's all hype, it's very distracting. There's lots of noise, lots of hype. You're gonna hear your mate say, "Oh, bro, I bought this coin. It's gone for 10x," and you're like, "Oh no, did I miss out?" And you
yeah,
hear all these noises of people making lots of money from just buying some random noise, stupid coin,
yeah,
and you kind of get distracted. Wait, I'm over here and I'm over here. When the markets are down and all these coins are dead, then you can focus on the real message. And that's basically where we are right now. That's why this is the best time to actually do an interview when no one's listening. I guarantee you, the only guys, listen carefully, and this is me telling whoever's watching this, kudos to you, because you've taken the time to educate yourself when there's no motivation other than to educate yourself. Did you get that message? When the market's in hype, the motivation is money. I want to make more. I wanna, you know, that the dream of passive income and
yeah,
staking rewards, and I'm just earning by doing nothing. All that
yeah,
hype is gone. Now you're back to your normal day job. You're back to your normal 9 to 5. You know, working at McDonald's or wherever you are. Now you're doing the real work of actually learning, educating, and growing yourself as an individual. Learning about how money works, learning about how the economy works, learning about how life works, learning something, and then hopefully you will take that knowledge. That knowledge will benefit you in the long term, not this short term nonsense about this coin and that coin. That's just, yeah. Sorry I interrupted just there. What you're saying?
No, that's fine. Feel free to. So, yeah, I think you know the coin that you were just mentioning. I might have got into something similar. What was it called? The one that you were referring to
Mask.
about the.
It's called mask.
Okay, no, there was another one where it was a similar where apparently you could set up 4G nodes or something, right? I forgot the name of it, but it was one of the big ones.
Helium, you mean?
Yeah, yeah, helium. So I even got one of them. I even got one of them mining things, right? And I was gonna set it up and stuff, and then obviously the market tanked, and they were even reselling for a lot. You know, the actual units,
Yeah.
and then suddenly now, obviously, it's like worth half the price, and it's just sat here. But um, at the time, I remember it was like part of a bit of like a daily routine. You go on these YouTube channels, various ones, right? And obviously, as a relatively uneducated, you're just gonna go by the one who you think is like most charismatic and you know the general things that people are swayed by in terms of like personalities and stuff. And it'd be like every coin, they'd be like, "Oh, this one can go up, run up 30%." You know, they get them charts out and stuff. And another side effect of that is like how some people who did make money, they've made money in like a deluded way because
It was a
they
mistake. It was
kind
an accident.
Exactly, yeah. But they're gonna be left with that sense that they did something. So then now, so then now, I think Andrew Tate was talking about this. Like now they're left with that sense of achievement, but it's not going to translate into anything because they just capitalize on that. But the question I wanted to get to was that, um, and yeah, bringing that to a close. Essentially, I sold out all of the little coins, and you might want to persuade me or not, I'm left with Ethereum and Bitcoin, right? And last time we spoke, I did ask you about Ethereum, and I think ultimately your conclusion was just go for Bitcoin. But I don't think you were so anti Ethereum at that time. Has that changed at all? Like considering recent developments, or
So just before I answer the question, there was a point you mentioned. I wanted to add a saying. There's a saying in trading that when you start trading, it's level one of start when you're trading a coin or trading a stock or whatever you're trading, is whereby you don't know what you're doing and you lose money. That's level one. Level two is where you don't know what you're doing, we start making money. That's
mm,
level two. Level three is when you start learning what to do and now you know what you're doing, but you lose money.
mm,
And level four is when you know what you're doing and then you make money. Now, I'm not saying that these stages will be for everyone. This is maybe a person might be stuck at level two forever. Who knows? Or
yeah,
level three forever. The point
yeah,
here is in the stages that they say is that it's possible to make money and have no idea what you're doing. And like you said, it's possible that you repeat you repeat a formula that doesn't really work, but you thought it worked at the time. There's actually a study that they did with pigeons and birds, whereby basically they had like a pigeon or a bird in a box, and they watched the bird through cameras. And then if a bird did a particular act, a random act, like maybe bent his head this way, they would release some food.
mm, mm,
And what they discovered that birds very quickly just tried to do this random act to try and get the food, because they
mm,
recognized that not they recognized, they drew a conclusion, birds drew a conclusion that this act occurred along with the food. So if I did the act again, the food will come.
mm,
And humans are the same. We think that if I did something and it was successful, that by definition, repeating the act would make it successful again. And this is why when they say most people who lose money in crypto or even investing, is because like that they did the act and it accidentally gave them profit, and they repeated the act again, not realizing that it was a fluke. It wasn't actually stratagem. And that's why whatever they had gained at the beginning by accident, they lost it all by repeating stupidness. And that's why essentially a lot of people, even I've had many discussions with people say, "Oh, brother, I got some good coins and you don't know, brother." I say, no, it's true. You keep on saying it might be a good coin, but tell me this, brother, riddle me this. Yes, people say this, riddle me this. How much of your gains you've made before do you still have? Bruv, almost all of them have lost it all.
yeah,
But yet they're still stuck on the idea that no, but this is different this time. I.e., they're still stuck on the
yeah,
first. I bend my head this way, food will come. That's not how it works, my friend. That's not how it works. Back to the issue of you asked about you mentioned about was it about Andrew Tate and you saying that
Ethereum,
oh, no, it's about Ethereum. So Ethereum number one was always just a trade play, like all other coins, because when it comes to money, so it's not even money. When it comes to people, human beings, we go to efficiency. We go to the winner. So there may be search engines that are better than Google, but it's just so much more easy to use Google. There may be, smartphones out there that are better than Samsung and Apple, but we're going to go for Samsung and Apple for the majority. Human beings go towards efficiency, go towards the path of least resistance,
mm,
which is why all other coins, no matter how good they claim to be or actually are, the fact of the matter is the market has decided already who the winner is. And that is translated in the market cap and in the price action. So Ethereum was just a trade, and I don't know if I mentioned to you before. I think I'm not sure. I can't. I never watched the video I did of you after, but I
mm,
may have said to you in this one, or maybe not. But I said if Ethereum this cycle cannot beat its previous all-time high, it's dead. Meaning,
Mm.
the price of Ethereum in Bitcoin price, if it can't beat its previous high price, it's dead. And its previous high price was 0.14 or 1, no, 0.16 Bitcoin. So one Ethereum back in 2017 got as high as 0.16 Bitcoin, one Ethereum. This cycle, the highest it got was 0.08.
Mm.
So that's like 50% almost less than what you got last time. That's a clear-cut sign that the coin is dead. Because if for it to now beat that, the previous two highs, something drastic has to happen. And what we're already seeing here is a trend of lower highs. Lower highs.
Mm.
So the only coins that really actually, like I said, if you actually do the maths, go to any coin in the crypto space, any coin in the crypto space that's been around for more than one cycle. And what I mean by that is ignore the coins that have just appeared out of nowhere now in this cycle.
Mm.
Those that are around in the previous cycle. I think literally, without any exaggeration, less than 5 coins have beat their previous highs from the old cycle. One was Binance, one was Chainlink, and that's all I know actually. I don't know any others. There
Mm.
might be a few others, but I know it's less than 5 coins out of the more than 20,000 that are out there have actually beat their previous all-time highs,
Mm.
which says something. Which says, and all coins trend towards zero. They all head lower and lower as time goes on, as basically the holders start to give up one by one and capitulate and move on to other things. That's basically how it is. But I don't really want to spend time really talking about price action, because I think price is a distraction. This is one of the reasons why people get distracted with these other coins, is because they get distracted by the price. Price is not the measure of success, you could say. It's not. Guarantee you, brother. The price of this is not a measure. I mean, I just mentioned to you about the price of these other coins. That's like an example. But if you want to look at success, Bitcoin is the only coin you need to worry about for a number of reasons. Most importantly, it's the only coin that's decentralized. It's the only coin that has the network effects that Bitcoin has. No other coin can claim the amount of adoption spread across the globe as Bitcoin has. And number 3, the incentive structure behind Bitcoin is completely different from everyone else. As in terms of the mining, in terms of the use of it, everything about it is completely different, including, listen carefully, including the development of Bitcoin. As in those people who build on top of Bitcoin, those people who develop Bitcoin, none of them are being paid by anybody. Listen carefully. There's no Ethereum there's no Bitcoin Foundation where they get money from staking from none of that. They are working on it voluntarily or through donations of other people who like the network. That doesn't exist anywhere else. Guaranteed. So if you want to know what's going to be here in the next 10 years, Bitcoin is going to be the one that's going to be here in the next 10 years. Inshallah ta'ala, if we're all here in the next 10 years. But also the others, they are all dead in the water. And that's including Ethereum, especially as Ethereum has changed from proof of stake or proof of work, which is mining through actual work, to proof of stake. That move was the single worst move for Ethereum that they could have done and secured their demise, in my view. Wallahu alam.
Yeah, so I've listened to a few of Saifuddin Al-Mus, I think that's how you pronounce his name. I think you've been on his show as well. And
No, I haven't been on Saifuddin's show.
okay, but he has a style of communicating where obviously he's very certain. So then
Yeah.
you come out of watching or listening to one of his shows where you're thinking like that kind of confidence transfers in a sense. It's like it's very convincing because he has so much conviction in it, and he's like very knowledgeable. He's written a book on it and stuff. So that alongside the whole how everything else is just capitulated price wise, I just had to take the losses and kind of sell everything and put it back into the other
See,
Ethereum
the
and
thing is,
Bitcoin.
I mean, all things are clear in hindsight. And like I said, what you described, what you did, is the same thing everyone done. I mean, I've been there. Everyone's been there at some point. And I think these, if you made a loss, those losses was your fee for learning. You learned a
Yeah.
lesson. Yeah. And that's why
Mm.
I never look at these things as being a negative. I think some
Yeah.
people need to lose their shirt in order to understand realities. I
Mm.
guarantee you. So especially, I mean, I know for a fact I've told many people, especially those who are always banging on about this coin, that coin. I say to them, look, just forget whatever your coin is telling you. You just tell me in terms of just price action. Would you have more Bitcoin if you just bought it then and held it then use that Bitcoin to buy these other coins? Almost, I think every one of them has said yes. I haven't come across a single person who said, yeah, I actually made more Bitcoin through altcoins than just having the Bitcoin. Every single person has said, if I just bought Bitcoin and left it there, I would have more Bitcoin today than I would have yesterday. That's just a given, because they have to learn the hard way that I guess wealth generation is not a short-term thing. And that's why I love Bitcoin, because Bitcoin doesn't give any promises. Bitcoin doesn't say to you, you get the moon. Bitcoin doesn't say to you, yield, you're going to get, if you do this, stake it. None of that. Bitcoin just says, I am money. You can use it if you want or not, move on. This
Mm.
is usually, I would say to everyone, a sign of a scam. And when I say scam, I use it loosely. I don't mean literally someone's out to steal from you. Not necessarily. That's a scam, no doubt. But I'm including those coins that have no life in the long run.
Mm.
Maybe even the person who made it believes in it as having life, but
Yeah.
in reality, it has no future. And
Mm.
those are the coins who focus on price action. If all the narrative they have is money go up, ignore them. And that includes
Mm.
Bitcoiners, by the way. This is something even in Bitcoin, even if someone says to you, Bitcoin, if all they can speak about Bitcoin is the money go up, switch off the channel and find someone else to listen to. Don't listen to them. If
Mm.
their motivation is only about money, you're listening to the wrong person. You need to listen to people who will educate you as to why Bitcoin is important. Censorship resistance, borderless payments, open system, open source, open system, you can build on top of it. These are the people you need to speak to or listen to, those who actually can teach you what Bitcoin is and educate you as to why it's something that should interest you, not someone who's
Mm.
only interested to make money. And that's just that's a message and a qaida, that's a principle. If they teach you
Mm.
about money, ignore them.
Yeah. It's good to see, actually. I'm coming on to that topic. I might bounce around different topics here, but the other day I was working with some guy who's a marketer from Pakistan or something. He just reached out to me, and he was surprisingly good. So I was like, why not? Because a lot of times when people cold email you or something, it's like um, it's just very basic, and they don't put enough time into it and stuff. But
Yeah,
and then he when it came to payment, he asked for Bitcoin payment, isn't it? And I was like,
perfect.
That's the first time kind of someone that I've used to outsource work to, whatever, has requested payment in that way. Um,
Perfect. Just a draw a point into that. This is where Muslims need to be moving towards. How do we build a circular economy around Bitcoin? How can
mm,
I actually provide goods and services and get paid in Bitcoin, and take goods and services from others and pay them in Bitcoin? If we can
mm,
develop this network of people actually using Bitcoin for actual commerce, then people actually start seeing the benefits not only in their pocket, in their finances, but also taking Muslims away from a riba, from the banks
mm,
and their system.
mm,
People don't recognize or even acknowledge this very important point. We are currently in a riba-based system, and we are making almost zero effort to exit it. We have a
yeah,
solution right here, and we're not taking advantage of it. We need to take advantage of it and start building our economy around it. That's why I'm making this a video series now, if anyone's interested, on how to live the Bitcoin standard. How
yeah,
can me, as a Muslim, live entirely on Bitcoin? I mean, bills, groceries, utilities, rent. How can you do all of that using Bitcoin? It can be done. I've been doing it for the last 2 years. That's what I'm making. That's what people should be start focusing. How can I even try to attempt doing that? At least try, at least. And you'd be surprised at
mm,
how easy it is and how useful it is. And like your friend who you paid, no doubt he's got some way to use that money he's received to now pay his bills, to go and look after his wife, and go and do whatever he needs to do. And no doubt he's even
mm,
saving money on remittance. You know, he can
yeah,
get his money in his bank account. No one's asking
yeah,
him any questions. No one's questioning. Just the other day, I had some long 2 days, no, 3 days of interrogation from my bank account. Who's this guy who's paying you? Why is he paying you? What services are you provided? What What evidence do you have? Do you have a screenshot? Bruv, I'm like, got to a point where I was saying, have I done something wrong? I mean, what's the problem? Oh, no, sorry, so it's normal procedure and blah, 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 anti-money laundering. And I'm like,
Yeah.
fund this, man. I was actually at the stage where I was thinking, you know what, let me just close the bank account down. I can't rob this headache. If you don't want me to do my business, let me just go somewhere else. And that's what people need to start thinking about. How can I, as a Muslim, exit this riba system? But anyway, sorry to just, I just jumped into your conversation.
No, I like that. It's good. Yeah, that's the key point. That I know this is a bit of like a light-hearted conversation and stuff, but then the underlying kind of major shell-shocking kind of point is that point about riba, because that isn't a light-hearted point. You know, if you like think about the actual concept of riba and how it's viewed within the deen, quite clear cut. It's not one of these topics that you can even start to like difference of opinion and all that. It's like very clear cut of declaring war on Allah, and the ayah that I'm sure you can reference in more detail. But then, so it's deep, and I think we spoke about that in the last episode somewhat. Um, but if you could just I have watched your recent videos actually, and I found that to be quite interesting because I didn't know. You know, if someone was to ask me that common trope against Bitcoin of like, how can I buy a coffee with it or how can I use it? You've actually demonstrated in those videos that I link in the description where essentially you use this. Yeah, if you could just go through the process of like the Bit Refill or whatever that site
Oh
is
yeah,
where you can
so
buy gift cards.
essentially, living on any currency, basically. That's the question. How do you live on a currency that is not the currency of the land? So you're in the UK, and you obviously buy and sell using UK pounds because that's you're in the country. Or if you're in Turkey, use a lira, or in America, use a dollar. So essentially, the easiest, least friction would be to use the currency of the land. And if you had your wealth in a different currency, then essentially you're going to have to convert that into the local currency to do your business or commerce. So when I say live in the Bitcoin standard, how do you live the Bitcoin standard? It's not just the topic of how do you give them the money they want, which is the fiat. It's also how do you store the wealth you currently have? That's also another topic. Because one could say, okay, 90% of my wealth is in Bitcoin, but 10% is in fiat because I need to pay bills. And that's still kind of living the Bitcoin standard. You're still using Bitcoin as your means of storing your wealth, and you only have a little bit of loose change in fiat just to pay your bills. You can do that. I guess the next stage would be to not even have that, as in you have bank accounts that are literally on zero, and you only ever have money in there just to go in and go out. That's one of the complaints in my bank account. I had it actually the other day. Last I just mentioned, they were saying literally, how am I using this account? Because money goes in and it goes out within a minute, within 2 minutes, it goes in and it goes out. I don't leave it in there because I only use the bank due to necessity. If I have to use the bank, money goes in and I use it to go to whoever it needs to go to, and that's it. It's back to zero again. I don't use the bank for anything. So if they decide to shut me down, close my account, which others have done before, I'm like, cool, that's fine. I'll just go somewhere else. It doesn't bother me. It doesn't harm me. I've been stung once before, but I think it was Revolut. They closed my they froze my. This is actually funny. I think I mentioned another one. I had someone sent me £5. My Revolut account, someone sent me £5. What did Revolut do? Froze the £5. Where'd it come from? Who sent it to you? What's their name? So I said to them, wait, this is £5, yeah? Not 5,000 or 500, just £5. You're actually seizing £5 for what? What's the problem? So I've actually had before banks actually freeze the amounts. So I've learned that as soon as it goes there, I need to know where it's going to go after that, and I make sure it passes through and done. Other than that, my money's in my wallet, in my hand, in my pocket, on my desktop. I don't have it anywhere on this. So essentially living the Bitcoin standard is two levels. One, where you use Bitcoin as your medium or means of storing your long-term savings. That's one. So therefore, that's something you're going to have, not going to touch for 1, 2, 3 years, whatever. 4 or 5 years, or for a time, whatever. That's your long-term storage. If you need to make a big purchase, you withdraw and you do that. But other than that, it's just long-term storage. But the one I want to try and focus on in my videos series is how do you use it for day-to-day use? So one way of doing it would be to have what's called a crypto debit card, essentially a debit card that you can load up with Bitcoin. and you just spend it wherever you want to spend it. So it's Visa,
Mm.
or MasterCard. So wherever you go to a shop and you tap your card, the company in the back end takes the Bitcoin you have on the thing, converts into the currency that they want, whatever currency it is, and gives them the currency they want. So it doesn't even have to touch a bank. It's in Bitcoin. It stays in Bitcoin. Only at the point of sale, it gets converted and goes away, and then your hands is free and washed from the fiat. So that's the easiest and the most smoothest experience, because you can spend that anywhere that accepts a card, online
So
payments.
which card would you recommend? Sorry to interrupt. So
There's
out
a
of
few.
like, I used to have
There's a few out there.
crypto.com.
I personally wouldn't use crypto.com, although that is a feature.
Mm.
And the main reason I don't advise crypto.com is because a large part of their revenue stream is through riba, loans.
Mm.
They call it crypto loans, but loans nonetheless. So although you're not engaging in that, I think it's ethical to avoid companies like that. If you can. I mean,
Yeah.
beggars can't be choosers. If that's the only card you can get, then get it. Yeah. But if you have other cards that don't offer those features, then by all means do that. It might sound a bit hypocritical, because essentially all cards that use Visa or MasterCard essentially are banks or use banks, and all banks do riba. So it's kind of like a silly thing to even suggest. But it's mainly because that is their in your face main business product is staking, yield, interest, blah blah blah. That's their main thing. For me, it's like an off license. You can buy your Christmas off license, but it's best to buy it from a shop that's not an off license. That kind of approach. There's WireX, and that's another card they recently opened up against the UK. So basically, WireX, Ledger, the hardware wallet. They recently updated their services, so now you can actually get a card with Ledger, and it connects with your hardware wallet. There was another one called Swipe, which was bought by Binance. But as far as I'm aware, that's only available in Europe. I don't think you can get it in UK anymore. If you already have it, you can keep it. But if you can't, they don't allow new customers. So essentially, that's Binance. There is, I think, Coinbase do have a card, but their fees are extortionate, like 2%. You have to pay just for each transaction, and that's harsh. The other coins actually give you rebates, whereas Coinbase actually take money from you. So I mean, you have to look. There are many countries that different cards available. You have to do your homework. That's the first one. Crypto-based prepaid cards. Also, there is a new option, which I'm going to make a video soon, the next couple of days about it. It's going to be made available next week. I found it. Basically, it's a debit card, but it's not. There's no bank behind it. There's nothing behind it. It's a coupon card. You have the gift cards that you get as the gift card one up. So basically, it's a gift card, which actually is a Visa debit card. So it's, you load it up, you buy a gift card. So imagine you buy £100 or $100 gift card, and you can spend it like a Visa, like a normal Visa. So it's disposable. You can't top it back up again. You can't add more funds to it. You just buy the card as it is, spend it to this depleted, and then you just throw the card away and get a new one. That's very good for privacy, or not, but that exists. So I'm making a video about it next week. And then the other option will be gift cards itself. So like I said, I have released those videos to do bit refill. So there's another company, there's an app you can download on the App Store. They have loads of these companies that allow you to purchase their gift cards, and including like Sainsbury's, Asda, JD Sports, John Lewis, all these big companies across the world, by the way, even like in UAE, Malaysia, those are places across the world. You get their gift card and just basically buy it with Bitcoin. So you choose. So what you can do if you have a family, you can budget. I want to spend like $50, $100 on shopping a week. So I just buy that $100 at the beginning of the week in gift cards, and then when I go shopping, just scan your gift card until it's depleted, and you finish your week shop. And then next week you get next gift card, and then like that you can budget yourself like a month. Like maybe you say per month I want to spend £400 on shopping. You just buy that gift card. Therefore, every week you do your shopping.
And you've been doing this for 2 years, like actually living by paying by Bitcoin and stuff. And how many other people do you know that are doing that, like in the community or whatnot?
So the gift card thing, I only started doing it recently because I generally had the Visa card, so it was just easy just to do that. But the gift card is quite good just for the issue of budgeting. When you're using a Visa card, you don't actually know what you're spending, just spending. If you wanted to actually say, okay, I only want to spend X amount per day, then the gift card option is probably a good one, because you just have it, you scan it when you want to use it, and once you depleted it, then you know, okay, I spent my week's amount. I'm gonna now wait until next week. I'm gonna hold myself off because I have to or not. Also, the gift card is more private in the sense that your Visa debit card, you have to
Yeah.
do KYC. You know, your name,
Yeah.
your address, your passport, blah blah. They know who you are. Whereas the gift card is a gift card. No one knows who you are. You just spend and done. So, but you know, whatever you can do, you can do. And then I guess the other option, which would be just spend it or converting it into your Bitcoin into fiat if and when the above option is not available. So imagine rent. That's usually the biggest cost where it's hard to find the above options working would be rent, or maybe your utility bills. So actually, utilities are fine, because utilities you can generally go online to pretty much all gas, electric companies, phone companies, and usually you can pay online with your debit card. So you can use your crypto card and even get discount, because generally these crypto cards have like 2% off or 2% cashback, 1% cashback. Some even go as much as 4 or 8%. But that's another question. So, but in terms of rent, it's hard to find a landlord who'll take debit card. Normally, it's just a bank transfer. No, some do, but not always. So in that case, you're gonna have to sell, and that way you can just do, like I said, a peer-to-peer sell. You find someone who wants to buy Bitcoin, therefore you just set up an exchange and do it. It might sound a bit convoluted, but we have programs like Bisq. I have a video on that one on my YouTube channel. Bisq, BISQ. It's just an app. People who want to buy Bitcoin, they put up their bids or they put up their orders. You click sell. You lock in your Bitcoin into their application. They transfer the money directly to your bank account. Then you say, I received it. You release the funds. They get their Bitcoin. You got your fiat. And then you just send your money to your landlord. And that's it, done. You can actually decide how much you want to receive. So I've got to pay my rent 800 quid, 1,500 quid. So you just put up a bid. I want to sell 1,500 pounds of Bitcoin. Who wants to buy it off me? Some guy wants to take it. You put some money to your bank account. You release the Bitcoin. You send that money to your landlord. Move on next month. Like that. So thing is, people think that it would be difficult. And my answer to that is, it's only as difficult as the first time. Once you've done it once, after that, it's easy. After that, easy. Just like a bank account. The very first time, if you can even remember that time, very first time you did an online payment with your debit card, it was stressful. Putting in the number right, putting in the date, putting in the CVC number, and then you got your name, and you got your address, and you got to click it, and you got your email address, you got all that stuff. All that thing is like stressful. Now it's like second knowledge. Now you can even do Apple Pay. It's so straightforward. But the process of doing that is long and convoluted. With Bitcoin, it's just one address, press send, and done. It's only as difficult as the first time. It's not that difficult. You just want to. You just have to need to do it. That's the only issue, brother. It has to be a need. For me, my need is I want to exit the system. I don't want to be in the system. I want to be outside the system. For me, my motivation is I want to avoid riba at all costs. I want to be able to stand Yawmul Qiyamah in front of Allah and say, Ya Allah, I did many things that are wrong in my life. I tried to do many things as good as I could. But one thing I did try to do was avoid riba. I want that to be able to be a claim that I can make. And I think everyone wants to make that claim, but I think people need to realize it can be done. And maybe that extra 10 minutes that you have to take to pay for something is worth it. Maybe it is worth it, brother. And this is one thing I think really it really annoys me. I just watched a video today with someone essentially justifying riba banking, apparently a scholar justifying riba banking, and I'll say to myself, but where's the Dharoorah? Where's the necessity? Exactly, are you telling me 10 minutes of extra work is a necessity for riba? How does that make sense?
Yeah, I have kind of similar sentiments on that, because you've got me thinking, actually. Because if you want to improve your situation, and you know how last time you kept saying optimize, if you want to like optimize, then essentially that's something we should be considering, definitely. And this whole thing about Dharoorah is one of my, like, call it pet peeves or whatever, and I think it's a sentiment shared by a lot of people these days, that the argument of it's just being abused too much. Like every other opinion or every other thing is like, oh,
I must do
um,
it. I must do it. I must do
the
it.
scholars say this, but in the case of necessity, and I'm like, we don't need. It's not that difficult. Like we're okay just following it as it is. And it's like I think there is a bit of a pushback to that because people see the parallels of like what happens to religion if you follow that path, with like Christianity and what's happened. People can recognize that, at least some Muslims in the West. And they're like, a lot of non-Muslims are even coming to Islam, and we've had videos on this before. They're attracted by the rigidness in a sense of like, here are the boundaries, and these are the boundaries we stick with. But when you see that, like, oh, some scholars say you can have the one that you want to live in as long as you're not on mortgage and all that kind of stuff, it like convolutes it, and it's like you can see where it ends, or like it's not a good end, I guess.
So essentially, on the topic of Dharoorah, what I try to draw people's attention to is that people need to start asking themselves, is it something you want or something you need? They're not the same thing. I need medical care. I need cancer treatment. I need a roof over my head. Yeah, these are things I need. What I want is a Bentley. What I want is a Tesla. What I want is to study this degree in this university of such prestige. That's what I want. I don't need it. I want it. When you start looking at wants as needs, you're gonna have misguidance. I just heard today. I have the recording. I actually did a screen record because in my Telegram group we was discussing it. How literally one person said, "Yeah, I have the opinion that you can do the mortgage if it's your house you live in, or you can do a student loan if you want to do that." And I thought to myself, that's such a what's the word? That's such a irresponsible thing to say. Who said you need a house? Now, don't get me wrong. There may be a case where a house is necessary. You need to have a house, and the only way of you getting out of your situation is to have a house. For example, you live in a council estate. The council estate is bad. When I say bad, as in you're fear for your life and for your life of your children. And there actually is no way you can get out of that place or even move to another estate without actually getting a house. For example, I'm saying as a scenario. I'm not saying that's real. I'm saying that could be. Imagine that is a scenario. So therefore, you may make a case. Okay, I need to get a mortgage because otherwise my kids are going to be seeing this, raising this, and I fear they're going to go into drugs, crime, zina. There's a genuine fear there. My son's friends are in the area. I know how they are. I know where they're going. I want them out of that environment. Yeah. Maybe that could be a case. But even with that, you can say, okay, but wait, who said you have to have a house in London? Who said you have to have a house or even live in the UK? There's so many places you can go in the dunya. Why do you have to have a mortgage in the middle of London, in Kensington Street, wherever? Why do you have to do that? You don't have to. It's what you want to do. And this is what I'm saying, that people need to understand that the dharoorah, the necessity, has to be a genuine necessity. Is there genuinely a necessity for you? May not be. But when you give out fatawa or statements like, yeah, if it's the house you live in, you can do it. That's such a blanket statement. Maybe that you basically open the doors to everything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, even for example, and let me give you another example, yeah. And this is one of my I would say one of my biggest arguments against this idea of mortgages. In order for you to get a mortgage, you first need a deposit. And if it's an Islamic mortgage, for example, specifically, that deposit may be 10% of the total value. If you have that much money as a deposit, you actually have enough to buy a flat. Listen carefully. If you've got enough money to put a deposit to buy a house, you actually have enough money to buy a flat, whole, done, completed, in Turkey, in Malaysia, in any Muslim country in the dunya. You have enough money to buy even a house. So why do you need to have a house in London? Why? You've actually proven you have the funds because you can get a mortgage. So therefore you've proven you don't actually need the house. You don't need the mortgage, but you want it. So that's one of my biggest arguments. Forget all the issue of is it halal, is it dharoorah, whatever. Even if you go that route, you say, yeah, for dharoorah you can. My first question is, if you have the money to get a deposit, then therefore you have enough money to buy a flat. And just scale down the buy a flat, be humble, save up some more, and then over time you get a bigger flat, and then maybe over time you get a house. But there's no reason to have a big, 3-bedroom house in the middle of Leighton.
Mm. Yeah, I've never heard of it. That last argument that you made, I think that's probably the most powerful one that I've heard because yeah, people have this thing. Other people, I guess, I would say that they're not really that educated Islamically, but they're educated in like minority opinions. So like they'll they'll talk about how oh riba's everywhere and stuff and like a necessity, but then they'll happily do car interest payments that is clearly not a necessity. Like you mentioned, you don't need a car payment for like a Mercedes new one, whatever it is, right? So they kind of defeat the argument there, but then it's just like, oh, we're living in this system, and the
Bro,
arguments
even
that
even
just
how
go
even
one level
cars.
deep.
Even cars, I was looking at some years ago, like maybe 6 years ago, at a Tesla. 'Cause I'm fascinated with Tesla. I love Teslas. I
Mm,
was looking online because they had this 0% finance option back in the day. I thought to myself, you know what? I could probably do this. I looked at the
mm,
payments. I said, I reckon I could keep up with the monthly payments. But you know what? The initial deposit or the initial payment you have to pay for to even get the car actually is enough to get a good normal car. As in
yeah.
purchase outright. As in rather than spend that money on a Tesla, I can just buy a normal car and have no debt. Just
Mm,
scale down my what I want. I don't have to have what I want. I can have basically, in a long story short, and this brings us back to Bitcoin. The beauty about Bitcoin is that it gives you lower time preferences and it encourages you to live within your means. I will say these are the two main psychological and practical benefits of living the Bitcoin standard. When you live the Bitcoin standard, number one, because you're actually physically, manually managing your funds, as in you actually have your Bitcoin in your hand. You're looking after your private keys. You're moving funds around when you need to spend it. And you're budgeting yourself. This action in of itself makes you more responsible. Makes you a better Muslim, actually. Because you realize I need to make this Bitcoin last. Because this is my saving. I need to make it last, and therefore what I spend the money on better be worth it.
mm,
So I start budgeting. I start planning. I plan ahead. Okay, even the idea of Bitcoin going in cycles where every 4 years it goes up in price, even that itself, just the fact that cycle itself makes you plan ahead. I want to get the new AirPods from Apple, but you know what? If I just buy it next 2 years' time when the Bitcoin price is better, I'll get a discount. That trains you to have sabr. To just wait. You don't have to have the thing now. Just wait till next year. It's only an earphone. You can have sabr, brother. You can have the same earphones you want, but at 50% discount. Imagine that, brother. Have anything you want with discount. All you have to do is just wait.
mm,
Just have sabr. And this
mm.
is one of the main psychological benefits you get from living a Bitcoin standard. It gives you a longer time preference or short time preference. I don't know basically you think more long term.
Longer
You
term, yeah.
start planning ahead, which is, by the way, how all Muslims used to behave back in the past. Why? Because they all lived the gold standard. You had to plan ahead. You had to have savings. And you had to live on your savings. Just the other day on Twitter, a discussion came up about this Keynesian opinion.
Mm,
So this opinion that savings is like a bad thing. So Keynesian economics sees savings like a bad thing, and spending is what the economy needs to do. You need to spend. And I was saying that this idea, many Muslims even share this idea and try and push that it's like some kind of Islamic idea. And I don't share that view. I don't think it's an Islamic view. So someone came on and said, no, here's this and here's some evidence to suggest that it is Islamic and whatnot. And he brought an ayah where it's الَّذِينَ يَكْنِزُونَ الذَّهَبَ وَالْفِضَّةَ وَلَا يُنْفِقُونَها فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. Those who gather together gold and silver and don't spend it fi sabilillah. And he went into a discussion about the ayah. So I went to the Tafsir al-Tabari to look at this opinion because you said that Abu Dhar, one of the Sahaba, had the opinion that you shouldn't save, you should get rid of money. And I was saying that opinion of Abu Dhar, if in fact true, doesn't support Keynes' opinion about the necessity for commerce. this actually supports the view of living within your means, minimalism, and whatever's excess, get rid of it. Not spend it, but get rid of it. It's difference between spending your money, i.e. just changing your wealth to another form of wealth, but get rid of it. Like as the ayah says, spend it fi sabilillah, charitable work, building wealth of the community, doing something useful, but getting rid of it. Anyway, but there's one point in it which is important. Well, one point we I thought was interesting. So the correct opinion was Ibn Umar's opinion, which is basically the ayah was referring to the money that should be paid in zakah. So those who gather together money and not pay the zakah, that's the punishment for them. But Ali ibn Abi Talib said 4,000 dirhams is okay. Anything more than that is kens. Anything more than that is this, what I was referring to, is to get rid of it. And it was interesting because essentially what Ali was saying was that anything above that amount of savings is excess. And in many narrations, which shows you that even Messenger of Allah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam had certain things, he would save the amount of money for food for the year and get rid of the excess. But the key here is this, the savings part, the planning ahead part. You have enough to look after yourself for a year. Yeah, if you have money that you can essentially retire on, then maybe you can say, I don't need that money for the next 20 years. I don't need, 20 years is a long time away. I can get rid of that for now. I can make that another time. All I really need is just the next couple of years. I'm good to go. Yeah, that's fine. But the point here is, in the past, people lived on savings. They had money, they acquired money, and they lived off of that money. That was the basis. And if you had no money, you were considered to be faqir, poor. Fast forward to 2023 or 2022. To be rich is to be in debt. You're actually in the reverse. You've actually got a mortgage, so you're actually you're in the red. You're in the negative. You got a car on hire purchase. You're more in the negative. You got credit card. You are literally living off of debt. That's actually become the norm, and it's actually become difficult for Muslims even to imagine life not in debt. I trust me, I spoke to many Muslims. It's like, bro, but we need debt. No, you don't need debt. You live on debt because that's what you've been taught. You've been taught that if you want what you want, this is how you achieve it. This is the business model. Credit cards, bank loans, mortgages. That's the norm. The actual Islamic norm is that you have savings. You build up your savings. As if you have monthly income, you spend some of your monthly income, you spend some of it, and the rest you save. And if something happens, la qaddar Allah, car accident, whatever happens, you have some money to spend from your savings. You have a backup. This is how you're supposed to live. And if la qaddar Allah, you pass away, at least your family has inheritance. That's why we had the whole ayah of inheritance, because essentially every Muslim has savings. The ayah of inheritance would mean nothing if every Muslim is supposed to have nothing. Listen carefully. The ayah and all the rules and regulations in Islam that talk about inheritance means zilch if Islam teaches Muslims to have zilch. Rather, we're supposed to actually have savings, have money, and then when you pass away, that goes to your other family members and it becomes part of their savings where they can take from and where they can spend. But like I said, back to the point of Bitcoin, I reckon Bitcoin is a way for Muslims to go back to how things used to be. We don't live in credit. We don't live in loans and whatnot. We live on, I know if I open my wallet, it says to me, I have 50 Bitcoin. That's my savings. And if I need to do something, look, can I budget? Can I spend that money? Don't want to do it, not want to do it. Then you make a decision. You make a decision. I know I rant on or not. I do apologize. But there's one last point, and I think I mentioned it in other videos. And it's something for you to think about as well. Brother, if you had a house, so if you had the money to buy a house right now, so you saw a house in Camden, nice house, view, near a park, beautiful. Wife loved it, you loved it, nice place for the kids to grow, good area, great. Now the landlord said to you, yeah, I'm giving you this house, I'm gonna spend, I'm selling it to you for £500,000, £500,000. Now, if I said to you, brother, look, here you go. You're a nice brother. You do good podcasts. May Allah reward you. Here's the money, brother. Here is £500,000 in your hand right now. You can go buy the house. So now you look at your bank account, you think, wow, never seen so many zeros in my account in my life. What? Brother, tell me the truth, brother. Would you not think twice, 3 times, 4 times about spending all of that on the one house?
Mm. Yeah,
Imagine that, brother.
definitely.
Imagine you have the cash ready to buy the house all at once. Would you still buy the house? Or would you think to yourself, you know what? I can buy a cheaper house and have the rest and buy some other. You would think that, isn't it? That's gonna cross your mind, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, but now let's flip the scenario. Brother, here's the house, £500,000. You don't have to worry, you don't have to worry about paying me. Here's a contract of mortgage. All you have to do is put up a deposit, £5,000, and then every month you just pay me 500 quid. You'd be like, khalas, sign.
Yeah.
Now, what I'm trying to draw your attention to here is your decision making is different. Your mentality is different. When it comes to the decision of actually spending your money all at once on this thing, you think differently than when it comes to a loan.
Mm.
When it's a loan, it's not really your money. It's someone else's money you're paying back at a later date, whenever, some other time.
Yeah.
But
So
when
it
it's your hand
discounts it
money
in
in
your
your hand
mind.
right now, you think completely different. If I said to you,
Yeah.
brother, here's the iPhone 14, 1 terabyte storage, all the trimmings, pay me right now 1,600 quid for the max version. You'd be like, how much is the
Yeah.
non-max version? How much is the normal one? Nah, you know, the half terabyte version. You think differently, isn't it?
Yeah.
What if I said to you, okay, brother, 0% interest, no interest, just pay me 30 quid a month. That's it. Give me the 1 terabyte version.
Yeah. Yeah.
You think differently. And this
Yeah.
is the difference that you get from the Bitcoin standard. It makes you think how you're supposed to think. Under the gold
Mm.
standard, you think of, if I want that thing, I have to pay for that thing. I have something in my hand right now. I have to give up. It's gonna be gone. It's gonna be gone. So do I really want to make that exchange, or do I not want to make that exchange?
Mm.
That's a completely different topic, and this is one of if that's the only reason why you should do the Bitcoin standard, that's definitely the reason. It will change the way you think, change the way you decide what decisions you make, and how you behave. Become more responsible for your money. You plan better, and I reckon you become a better person. Bitcoin makes you more
Mm.
righteous.
Mm. Yeah, mashallah, that's a powerful way of kind of making people think about it, I guess. From a psychological perspective, it's like a behavioral change mechanism, if you
It is a
like.
behavioral change because, like I said,
Yeah.
the if you live on credit, then you don't worry about how much it costs, because it's like almost like it's an afterthought. And one
Mm.
of the issues about credit, if you don't realize, is that it's like entropy. It's like the energy of the universe. You can't create energy out of nothing. You can't
Mm.
create energy out of nothing. Which means that if you buy the house on a mortgage, or you get this car on hire purchase, it's not for free. What you've done instead is you've taken your energy from the future and you brought it to today.
Yeah.
You haven't got it for free. You have to work for it. So what that
Mm.
means is that you're essentially selling your future for the now.
Yeah.
That's a bad way of doing it, brother. What you're
Yeah.
supposed to do as a Muslim is work for your future, not work for your past. If that makes sense. You're working now
Mm.
for your future. You're not working for your past. That's how you
Yeah.
become bankrupt, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, and then that feeds off into other things like in the previous example about the house, it's actually worse than that because we didn't factor in the extra money that you'd have to pay in interest as well. So it's actually a larger amount that you're giving and you're incurring the sin, which is the even bigger factor, I guess. But it's like an interesting way to make people think about it from just the purely that psychological perspective that you shared. And
Thing is,
then
you gone?
I was just gonna add it also impacts your future choices. You know, when you said you're selling your future energy, you're selling your future freedom as well, because
Yeah,
then these are
yeah,
the same people that 10 years later they're gonna be like, brother, how can we make hijrah when we got mortgages and we've got 3 kids living here and stuff? And then it all goes back to that decision that you made 10 years ago when you were on the hype train.
bro,
So it's
that's
like
beautiful.
it feeds into that, doesn't it? Because
Yep.
when me and the Make Hijrah team had that podcast, I don't think we were kind of tiptoeing around the subject a little bit about, Dharoorah, the necessity arguments and stuff, because obviously I'm not qualified. But then it's that same thing, because now if you're living in a global village, and technically a lot of places are flexible in terms of work arrangements, and like you can quite easily go and just start working in a different country. It's not really, if you've got like a laptop based job and you've already been working from home, as in like it might take a bit of the odd bit of HR discussion and whatnot, but it's not without, it's you're gonna probably be able to do it if you really wanted to, kind of thing, or you can find another place, right? So again, that whole thing about being locked into one location is completely changed the dynamic in terms of like necessity and those arguments. And it's something to think about when people now my age, or like younger than me or whoever, they're going straight into like, oh, get my mortgage and get my first house. They're just locking themselves up again for like 10 years or however long it is.
Wallahi, brother, I know people who they look at Turkey, they look at UAE, they look at other Muslim countries, Malaysia, and they go on and on about how beautiful it is. They'll love to go there. They can go there, and they could go there right now. They're locked into the system. Oh, I
Mm,
can't go yet because my pension this or my this that, and I have to stay for another 10 more years to finish up this thing here. Bro, they are locked in a prison. And I said to them, this one individual, I said to them, but brother, you're waiting 10 more years until this thing you're talking about finishes. By that time, what's happened to your kids?
mm,
You have a child who's now 14, 13. 10 more years, that's it, they're gone. You've actually, so therefore, in those 10 years, you're exposing them to all the madness in this country. For what? Just for that one thing you wanna finish off.
mm,
And you know how bad it is in this country. You know you wanna leave this country for your betterment of your kids, but you're locked in the system. Bruv, just like you said, you're selling your future for the now. You want this thing now, but you're basically become an abd. You become a slave to your thing.
mm,
I mean, I'm not suggesting everyone should live the nomad life. I'm not suggesting
mm.
that, because obviously you have family responsibilities and other things. But
Yeah.
still, um, I believe that if a person lives within their means, tries to live the Bitcoin standard or the gold standard, or basically just a standard of living within the money you have, not money you don't have, I think that you will have more opportunities, more flexibility to change what you want to do. You can actually, like I said, you can leave your job and go somewhere else. I mean, someone will give you can get a call tomorrow, bruv. I got a job for you in Kuwait. I got a job for you in Saudi, in Medina even. Is it paying you X amount of money, tax free? You want to come, bruv? That phone call is wasted if you're tied down to the UK. It's dead. You
Mm,
can't do nothing about it. Whereas if you're open, more free, you can do that. It's okay. You know what? I can do that. And if you're Bitcoin, you can definitely do that, because you just board the plane and go. Your money's with you. You have to
mm,
transfer your money. You have to explain where your money comes from. Just go.
mm.
Wherever you go, your money goes.
Okay, Jazakallah khair. It's been an hour, 6 minutes already, yeah, and I've got a few more questions.
Go for it. Go
So
for it. I'll try and answer them quickly,
l- l-
inshallah.
let's make them a bit more shorter, inshallah. So last couple on Bitcoin, and then I want to get your take on AI and stuff, right? Which is a
Go for it.
massive
Go for
topic.
it.
We might have to have a different podcast on, but just to get started. Number one was I read something, a Muslim guy who posts on, I follow on Instagram. Um, he's on the same thing about, he has detailed arguments in his highlights about why the common arguments about mortgages and versus rent and stuff, and he debunks them purely from like a financial perspective
Oh,
of
Abu
like
Musa.
Abdul Samad, I think Abdul
Abu
Samad,
Samad. Okay.
and but he also was talking about Bitcoin, and he mentioned something about how times are going to get crazy. Obviously, he has more of a pessimistic attitude, I guess, if you want to say that. But he was saying how crime's going to increase in terms of people trying to steal your keys and whatnot, when like Bitcoin price goes up. So though I heard recently about the multifactorial thing, about how, if you have one here, different locations, so then essentially even if someone was to get your keys in one location and you're with them, they can't really get anything from you because it has to be authorized in another place as well. Would you recommend something like that, or would you say, I guess you would recommend it, or what's your thinking on that topic from a security perspective?
Well, in terms of fund security, that's a
Mm,
really is a very big topic, because there's no one solution for everyone. Because ironically, people are more prone to losing their Bitcoin through mismanagement than through robbery, and that's actually a sad truth. A person may make it so convoluted and complicated to get access to their Bitcoin that they actually lose it. It can happen. It's just like burying your gold in the beach and then forgetting where you buried it. Same kind of thing.
Mm.
So I would generally suggest, especially a person who's a noob, just keep it simple. Your 12-word seed on 2 pieces of paper or on etched in metal, 2 different locations, done. If ever you get robbed or someone tries to steal from you your Bitcoin, I mean, you could just say, "What Bitcoin? I don't know Bitcoin." But the more obvious one is if people know you have Bitcoin. No, consider because there's no way to know that you
Yeah,
actually have it.
exactly. Yeah.
But that now comes down to how much pain are you willing to endure before you eventually say, you know what, just take the Bitcoin. I mean, are you
Mm.
willing to be punched up for like hours before you say and say I ain't got Bitcoin? Are you willing to do that, or you just say, "Look, take the Bitcoin"? It depends. But the other option will be to just have separate wallets. So you have one wallet, which is called the robbery wallet. If you ever get robbed and they say, "Give me your Bitcoin," you say, "Okay, here you go." So there's some money in it, maybe a couple £100, maybe 500 quid, maybe even £1,000. So
Mm.
they have something and they go. But your real storage is somewhere else. That's probably the simplest, most easiest solution for someone. Is you just have 2 separate keys. If you ever worried about being robbed, you just have 2 separate wallets. 'Cause remember, there's no end, there's no limit to how many wallets you can have. So you just have one wallet which has your asset balance that you don't mind losing if you get robbed. Just like a wallet, you have a wallet in your pocket which has some money, but you have the actual safe store something else. Not something else. You can do that. That's probably
Mm.
the easiest and most straightforward solution. Yeah, it's just that. And like I said, I don't think we've got to that stage yet where you'll
Yeah,
be robbed.
we've
I think
not.
that stage will
Mm.
more come with if you're more high profile. That's myself. I'm on this
Mm.
show to you. I'm telling you I live a Bitcoin standard. Therefore, everyone that is watching me, they know I have Bitcoin. But generally speaking, the everyday Joe, unless you're known for it, no one will know you even have it. So it's
Yeah.
highly unlikely, number one, you'll be robbed anyway, and it's even less likely that the one who does rob you knows you have Bitcoin. So
Mm.
I guess it's basically about keeping yourself on a low profile and making lots of du'a and hope for the best, really, inshallah, and just try and make sure you look after your keys and yeah, I mean, just keep on learning about how you can secure your keys in a good location, and definitely I would recommend a book. I can't remember the name of the book. It's about crypto inheritance. It's a blue book. You
Mm.
go to the Apple bookstore, iBookstore. Type in crypto
Mm.
inheritance. There's a really good book on that one because it talks about how to store your Bitcoin in a manner that your family can access it when you're dead, but not when you're alive. That whole discussion will help you answer all your questions because it's a whole book basically. It's important to
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, that was I was gonna ask you that actually. So it's good that you've. I might ask you to like send me the actual book title.
I'm trying to look
After
to see if it's in my bookshelf right now. Actually, I know I have it, but I don't want to get off hand. But you had other questions.
yeah. Yeah. So I was gonna ask you quickly. So if it is quite a convoluted thing, then perhaps not go into it. But in the last since March 2021, has there been any major developments or changes from like the ulama perspective in terms of like any more fatawas coming out in favor of Bitcoin or anything like that? Any developments from that side that you think is worth commenting on?
Yeah. So my position on this is that I don't really care, and I stopped caring. I know it sounds
Mm.
a bit raw, like blah
Yeah.
blah. How can you say that the ulama blah blah? It's not that. It's just that there's nothing that can be said to me that will change my opinion on Bitcoin. Because I've just discussed this topic like to death. Really, I've looked at
Mm.
all the arguments. I tried to approach ulama specifically. I tried to approach those who made videos against it. I've made tons of videos answering their replies, and their replies haven't really developed anything new in
Mm.
objection to Bitcoin. So for me, it's just the issue of when they decide to come on board, great. Otherwise, no amount of convincing or mental gymnastics will make me convinced that fiat is better than Bitcoin. And
Yeah.
that's the way I phrase it. It's not to do with Bitcoin specifically. There's no amount of convincing that will make me think that a bank is better than Bitcoin. Once you've lived the Bitcoin standard, there's no way you're going to go back. To go back to having them interrogate you about your money, worried that if they're going to seize your money and ask you questions about your money and how you spend your money. I'm not going back to that, brother. I'm
Yeah.
not going back to that.
Jazakallah khair.
So
So
in answer your question, I don't know what they're saying. And I know many people have come to me and say, brother, oh, why don't you talk to the ulama? And I'm like, look, if someone wants to speak to me, I'm here. I'm happy. I'll speak to anyone, any day, anytime. But for me to go out of my way to teach someone about Bitcoin who's not asking me about Bitcoin, I'm not doing that anymore. I tried doing that, and I've realized through many years of being in this space, if
yeah.
you're not prepared to listen, you will not understand. And there's actually a saying I heard recently, which is a beautiful one. It doesn't apply to the ulama specifically. This is just generally to everyone. It's hard for a man to understand something that his income depends on him not understanding. When you have a life that's set a certain way and you're comfortable in that way, there's no incentive for you to think otherwise. Only when you find an incentive to think otherwise, you open up the doors to thinking otherwise. But unless you have that incentive, oh, it's all gambling, it's nothing, and you can't touch it, it's not tangible, and it's like, oh, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, and so for the audience watching, obviously you must be familiar with Sheikh Muaawiyah if you've clicked on this episode and got this far into it. But obviously, he's been working in this space because his answer, if you were to just like look at his answer detached from everything else, you might be like, oh, that's not the right attitude to have or whatever. But like he said, he's been in this space for years and he's engaged with these arguments. You can find out more on his website and on his YouTube channel and everything. So I wanted to ask you.
If you go on my YouTube channel, I've got videos answering. I even you know that the very famous video about the what's his name? Hakim. The famous video about Bitcoin being blah blah blah. I have a whole 1 hour long video answering that video point by point, and another discussion with Tariq al Diwani, another video, and other. I mean, I've gone through this.
Yeah.
Literally, if I was to put number of hours I put into this of videos, I've actually got probably about 4 hours worth of video, probably a lot more actually, just answering all the points. So and I've sat down with some people of knowledge for hours. Only to realize they still didn't get it, and it's not their fault, by the way. It's not their fault. It's just that it is a difficult topic.
Yeah.
It's difficult for even the layman to get because it's such a paradigm shift. Everything's shifting. As we want to talk about AI now, AI is one of the examples where everything will change. It's a groundbreaking technology that will actually make you rethink how to do certain things you did before.
Yeah, so coming on to that then, because I've kind of been thinking about it over the last few days and I have a bit of a pessimistic view, I guess. I wouldn't say I'm normally like that. And because before this, my interaction with an AI use case that's coming to mind, so I might be missing something, was like basically the forms of like Google Translate essentially, or like the translation technology from a few years ago. And I remember I made the decision a few years ago because I learned Urdu, and then I'm in the process of learning Arabic, but I made the decision that I'm only going to learn a language if it's like for the deen, like Arabic, or like a cultural thing like your mother tongue or associated. Because otherwise, you can see where the translation technology is going. There's no real material benefit to trying to become a language guy just for translating. And I saw a post, a group of language translators complaining about how AI is taking their pay is being cut down because they just get hired for editing stuff that's already been translated by AI and stuff. But then, yeah, so then this whole thing about the Chat GPT thing came out, and I'm thinking it's shortened the timescales between, like, say before if you needed content writers and stuff like that. Now essentially you've got so much output at your hands, and it's a relatively good level. Everything's gonna change. So like, and then even applying it to Muslims, how would you say it's gonna change how we live or the reality for people living going forward?
So, I mean, AI as a broad topic is a lot more than what we've just seen recently with the
Mm.
chat GP. Was it GTP or something like
GPT, yeah.
that? GPT, yeah. So as I played around with that for a bit, and I tried to, because I asked this AI fatwa, like is what describe wudu and all that kind of stuff, and
I
I got a
saw
whole
that,
thread in
yeah.
my, but yeah. So it was interesting.
Yeah.
I think what's important is to understand what it's actually doing. Because when you look at it, you think, oh, this thing understands what's happening, it understands fiqh. But you need to understand what it's actually doing rather than.
Mm.
But back to the point, put it aside. That's another discussion. So
Yeah.
I think AI as a broad topic is basically a tool, and all these tools that mankind makes are means to improve efficiency. If you look at mankind from the time of Adam to this day, all that we do as human beings is find more efficient ways of doing what we have done before. It could even be farming, it could be stitch work, it could be building, it could be anything, calculating. All we do as human beings is produce things and find better ways of doing the same thing. So I see AI as just being another tool, means to achieve, as in rather than, like you said, hiring a whole team of artists, I can just ask AI, give me a poem about Bitcoin and the Shari'ah, and it will give me a poem, and
Mm.
that'll save me time to think of one, or if I look at this poem and maybe either use it or maybe use it for more inspiration. Maybe it can inspire me to do this to go along with it to some degree, to write something my own one. It's just a tool, just like Bitcoin. It's just a tool. Bitcoin is just a tool for commerce. Bitcoin is not
Mm.
a groundbreaking change of reality. It doesn't cause quantum fusion of atoms. It's just a tool to
Mm.
measure the exchange of goods. You know,
Mm.
I want to take goods and service of you. I want to give you something that you can use to exchange for something else. It's just a tool. Gold served as a tool to store wealth. Silver served as a tool to do that. A horse served a tool for transportation. Now we have cars and trucks that serve as a better tool for transportation. You know, these are all just tools to do certain things. Now, normally we get scared of these tools because those whom we previously employed are no longer needed, and we get worried. Oh, what am I going to do with now that my job is no longer needed? And that's everything. I mean,
Mm.
don't think of there's nothing in Islam which dictates that you must work at this job forever or you must be employable. If a
Mm.
tool takes your job, find something else to do. That is the whole point
Mm.
of technology. Technology makes it takes away the mundane from you so that you can do something else. It basically repurposes. So as in, think of it this way, society needs A, B, C, D done. Yeah. Normally to get A done, I employ this guy. To get B done, I employ this guy. To get C done, I employ this guy. To get D done, I employ this guy. But now we have computers. I can now actually get this guy and this guy just to do B because A is done by
Mm.
some program. And now I can get this guy and this guy to now do D because C is done by some other,
Mm.
robot. So now I can actually do things more efficiently. And as time goes on, maybe I'll get all four guys just to do B because now A, C, and D is now done by. You know what I'm saying? I can now
Mm.
allocate resources more efficiently. And that's the whole point. Even myself, I remember when I first graduated from Medina Uni, there's so many things that you need to be. I needed an accountant. I needed this guy. I did media guy. But now we have literally, bro. I'm talking to you on an iPhone. My phone, my computer's over here. My phone is right over here. My iPad is right over here. I don't need the whole studio anymore. I just need myself, my iPhone, and my computer. I've actually saved the cost of a whole team of people just with an
Mm.
iPhone now. So now that money I would have normally spent on people, I can now spend on something else. So it's
Mm.
not a bad thing. It's actually a good thing. I now can spend my money and my time and resources doing something more beneficial and something else. So my only thing I would say is that those who are in a line of work that is quickly being replaced by AI, what you do is now repurpose yourself. This is what I
Mm.
could do before. This is now being done by AI. What could I now do with my skills that I couldn't do that I either couldn't do before because I never had the time, or I could do now better. You know what I'm saying? I need to repurpose myself. That's basically what we do as human beings. We just need
Mm.
to. Well, this is more important to me. This is I. Do you know Abdul Wahid, bro? Abdul Wahid.
That
Yeah.
Medina
So when
College or
this chat GPT thing came out, I sent him some of the questions I asked him, these fatawa questions. I mean, he was laughing, saying, "Bruv, there's no need for us anymore. We've got AI muftis.
yeah. Yeah,
They can,
exactly,
bruv,
yeah.
I'm not even joking. I asked him questions about marriage. I asked questions about wudu, about salah. My mum was giving me the fatwa, man. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
But that's the point. Now that we have a computer that can answer the simple questions, I can now focus my time on the more complex questions, which
Mm,
AI hasn't caught up yet. And now I can not waste my time answering questions like, oh, brother, I did wudu and I didn't wipe hair. What do I do?
mm.
Brother, ask the AI, man. The AI can answer that question for you. You don't have to ask me
Yeah.
anymore.
I think it's just the rate of technological change, I guess, that it's just shortened the timescale because if you could argue that even when someone say you were living in Baghdad 1,000 years ago and they had their grand library, you could argue that if someone was living within the vicinity of the library, they could technically have all the world's knowledge in a day, i.e., like they could index it and find whatever they needed in a day. So then you can say when um, the internet came along, that's narrowed down to maybe half an hour or an hour, right? But so it's essentially it's just narrowed the time scale. It's the same kind of
Efficiency.
concept. Yeah, it's
Efficiency.
efficiency. Yeah, and then some level of technological change is always met with a bit of disruption, I guess, and the reaction that that causes. Like even I don't know if this is the right analogy, somewhat, but I always think about in one of the battles where the companion suggested the trench building, um, the companion
Salman
from Rome.
Farsi.
Yeah, Salman al-Farsi. And I was reading how when Abu Sufyan came and saw it, his initial reaction was, "This is not how the Arabs fight." So like, because it was kind of disrupting the norm, I guess, and it was like trying to get that emotional argument in there. And then even about 500 years ago, I think when Turkey, the Ottomans had one of the biggest empires or the strongest empire in the world. They developed basilic, I think it's called the cannon that took like a day to load, but it could basically break down walls, and that was like a massive technology advancement for them because it changed the dynamics of war.
Yep.
And
Yep.
it's like that, I guess, but it's just the pace because then you start thinking, I guess there's no
Do
point
you
to
know
just
much about? Do you know much about maths?
not really.
Okay, so do you know? Have you heard about parabolic
Moore's law,
curves?
yeah,
No, no. Have you heard of parabolic curves?
yeah,
So a parabola, basically the rate at which things are increasing goes faster and faster and faster, which is basically what we're seeing right now.
mm,
If you can imagine the time between one breakthrough in human history, another one was like 1,000 years. Then it was like 500 years. Then it was
mm,
like 100 years. Then it was like every 50 years. Now we're having breakthroughs like every other week.
mm. Does
Yeah.
that worry you though? Like from like a Islamic perspective, like for like
Why?
I don't know. I don't know. It's like yeah, in a sense, yeah. You're right to ask
Thing is,
why, but
I think it only worries those who it only worries those whom their job is at risk, if that makes sense.
mm,
And if your income depends on legacy system, then it'll
yeah,
worry you. But for everyone else, it was benefit. This is the point here. This is what we have here with fiat. Why do
mm,
so many people fight to keep the fiat system? Because they benefit from it.
yeah,
As in, if I said to you, let me give you an example. And it's not saying this is the case of all ulama or some ulama, but some people at least. If I said to you, brother, leave the banks, leave the Riba system, leave all their credit and their credit cards and whatnot, and just leave the Bitcoin standard. Yeah, that may actually be a better thing for them. They may actually
mm,
even agree on that, but they may think to themselves, "But how would I get a house then? How would I get that car I wanted right now?
mm,
How would I get all the things? How would I be able to live the life I'm currently living or want to live now? I can't see how that's possible. Therefore, I don't like Bitcoin." Maybe not as
mm,
obvious as that, but on a
yeah,
subconscious level, that is definitely what's happening with a lot of people. It's a threat, as in
mm,
this new thing is changing everything, and I don't know how to navigate. I don't know how to exist in this new
mm,
paradigm, this new thing. So therefore, rather than trying to just learn and adapt and change, let's just stick to what was there.
mm,
So again, just to draw parallels, um, what and you can ask me this, answer me this: how is it that someone who is a scholar of Islam, learned in Islam, knows 100% that banks is riba, ribawi, comes to hear about a currency which is not ribawi and is not interested in exploring that, what would motivate you to ignore that and stick to what you know for a fact is riba?
Mm.
Because it's comfortable. It's what you know.
It's
We've always
comfortable.
lived that. I mean, think about it. We've had this fiat system for the last 50 years. That means that 90% of people you know were either born after Nixon, the Nixon shock. They've only ever known this life. Now this person's coming with this magic internet money and saying it's going to change the world. Nah, this is a scam. This is rubbish. This is because it's comfortable. They're comfortable in what they know.
Yeah.
It takes a certain type of person to say, you know what, I know this life, but this may be better. Let me explore this. It takes a challenge. Back to the issue of AI. AI is one of those things. I just on YouTube, Twitter the other day, someone mentioned that because someone made a comment that this is gonna change everything, and maybe the ulama are gonna start using this. And one person took offense to this. They said, "Why would the ulama use this? Astaghfirullah." And I said to the brother, "What's wrong with the ulama using this?" And so, because you're trying to say the ulama don't know the answer. Why would they use this? I said, brother, AI it just means to make things easy. Maybe the alim will just say to the AI, give me a khutbah to read on zakah for today's Jum'ah. Boom, it's there. It can use it for that. Maybe the alim can make it himself, but it will take him maybe 10 minutes to do it, whereas he can tell the AI to do it in one.
Yeah.
Why not? Or maybe the sheikh will say, maybe the sheikh is doing research on zakah, or research on riba, or research on nikah, marriage. And there's a hadith he knows. So he says to the AI, hey Siri, please give me all the hadith pertaining to this hadith I have here. And it gives him all the hadith right there. Just like that.
Yeah, it shortens the timescale, doesn't it?
Shortens the timescale.
I felt so.
Not you, Siri. Sorry. I just said hey Siri.
Last question on this topic of if we carry on the doom and gloom side, is the stuff about central digital currencies, right? What's your whole take on that? Because I don't know if I don't really get involved in all this side of argument, but you could also argue that it's also comfortable. Number one, it's comfortable for people if they've grown up with this system and they're like 60 years old, whatever else, right? And they're not really embracing change from that perspective. But it's also like, if they see the banks or if they see the financial institution as part of the state, then that's another reason why they would not oppose it. Do you get me? In terms of like, they don't want to disrupt the state or the status quo, and how this can be seen as potentially going against like the people in charge and stuff like that.
Yeah. You know why? And that's because we as Muslims over the past couple of decades have become very statist, meaning we've grown to believe that the state or the government is in charge of everything. Whereas in reality, if you look at Islamic history, that's not been the case. The government's only been in charge of some things, not everything. I mean, just ask yourself a question. When did we start getting police? I mean, a simple thing as we take for granted, the police or the ambulance. I mean, as in, they weren't always there. Have you ever come across the hadith where the Sahaba called the police or the Tabi'een called the police? So then, how did they deal with crime back in the day? As in, we all took responsibility for what's around us. War in the good, good in the evil. There was no police because everyone was police. Everyone was involved in the running of the country. Everyone was part of the state. The government only did some things, not everything. Now we got to the state whereby we seem to think that the government must do everything. You know, every single thing the government, everything we want to blame. Why doesn't the government do this? Why doesn't the government do that? What do you mean the government? What happened to you? Do you think the government must do everything? What happened to you? Are you not involved? Are you not part of the state, part of the government, part of the system? And this is what I'm saying. It's a bottom up approach. Islam only deal this. If I actually show you the book of fiqh, you find that the part to do with judicial law, to do with government, is a small, tiny section of the whole book of fiqh. The rest of it is what we do: our salah, our zakah, our business transactions, our marriages, our divorces. What we do as amongst ourselves. The government is a small, tiny section of interaction. Most of it is they're not involved. But now, fast forward to our year, all of a sudden, the government's in control of this, and government's in charge of the
Yeah.
money, and government's in charge of interest rates, government in charge of this. That's not how it always used to be.
Yeah.
Now, maybe I'm talking so romantic as in the old days. We should go back to this. I don't know. Maybe things have changed. Maybe government need to have more of a role. Who knows? But what I'm saying is that those who feel that whatever the government says we must do, I think they've misunderstood the role of government. If a Khalifa says to you, hop on one leg, what you must hop on one leg for how long? What stage you must do now? You know what I'm saying? There are certain things which the government is in charge of, and we listen to obey them, but it's not everything. It's not every single thing we must do. Listen and obey, and that's ridiculous to assume that. But like I said, unfortunately, I think people have taken what's the word? We've become a bit communist in our view, or very socialist in our view. We've adopted a lot of social views that somehow the government's in charge of every single thing. That's not how it is. There's actually a lot of things the government shouldn't get involved in, i.e. the markets. That's another one.
Jazakallah khair. Can you just touch on the central digital currency issue, if that is an issue in your eyes?
Oh,
or
the new
potentially?
CBDCs, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yes. Sorry, I didn't get the point of the initial question. So yeah, so a CBDC, or a centralized digital, CBDC, central bank digital currency. That's what it is. So it's basically a digital currency issued by the central banks. So essentially, the way money works right now is that central banks are supposed to be in charge of the issuance of currency. In reality, money that we have in our hands is 99.9% from the high street banks, not from central banks. Central banks only in charge of a small fraction of money. Most money is made through money lending and mortgages and the rest of it. So with the advent of a CBDC, essentially what that means is that money issuance now comes from the central bank directly, circumventing the high street banks. So the high street banks won't be the issuers of money. It will be the central bank's digital currency. And it is what it is. I mean, some people are against it. Some people see there's benefit to it. I think the reality is that money is an emergent property. And what governments try to do is try to control this emergent. They're trying to have a monopoly over something which there is no monopoly. As in, mankind decided to use gold. Gold was never enforced on people. Mankind decided to use shells. It was never enforced on people. So I think if given the choice, if mankind is given the choice between Bitcoin and a CBDC, some would use a CBDC and some would use Bitcoin. But over time, people will just see that Bitcoin is so much more better than a CBDC. So they can launch it if they wanted to. And I don't really see anything wrong with it. The only way a CBDC will have success is by the sword. If governments take a knife to your neck and say you must use our currency, that's the only way they can force you to use it, because people won't use it normally. People will not normally use a controlled government coin that actually dictates how you can even spend your money.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
this makes sense. Here's money I can spend when I want. Here's money that the government's watching me how I spend. What are you gonna choose? Here's
Plus,
one
it's
money
easier for
which
them
is
to
limited in
control.
supply. Here's a money that they could print to infinity when they want to. I mean, it's just a no-brainer. They're gonna lose. So it doesn't concern me. The only thing it concerns is those who choose to stay in countries like UK or Canada or America. When they decide to bring down the hammer, then it's up to you. But I think those who have followed my advice of today, who have decided to try and live within their means, and those who try to build their savings, when these CBDCs come into play and when they start to see the authoritarian nature of this currency, they will make the decision themselves to leave this country. And by that time, the CBDC won't bother them. But just prepare yourself for that move when it comes, because you're gonna have to prepare yourself. You can't avoid it. At some point, you're gonna you have to make a decision. Do I want to stay in this society where this is the reality, or do I want to go to a better place? And I think that's what's gonna. We've seen it now already. Look at the NHS, how it's going downhill. I'll be honest, brother. Most people you speak to, the one thing that is keeping them in this country beyond family is what? The NHS. Once that's completely gone, the reason to be here is gone, beyond benefits and family. So, I think basically they're only making the case for you to leave even more stronger. So like I said,
Okay.
build your stats, learn about Bitcoin, start looking at the Bitcoin standard, exploring how you can live your life, paying for stuff about the government breathing down your neck and seeing what you're doing, watching what you're doing. Start asking for payment in Bitcoin. Start doing business online maybe and getting paid in Bitcoin. Start building your stash so that maybe when the day you need to come to leave the country or do something else, or I don't know, pay for your kids' university degree, which we should be doing ourselves, we should be saving to do that anyway, then you got the funds. But sorry, one last thing I want
Jazakallah.
to mention. 'Cause I
Yeah.
like winding people up. So universities, everyone's always asking about how to pay for university. The way you pay for it is by saving up. So technically speaking, all parents who want their kids to go to university should be saving from the moment they were born. If you really want to avoid riba, as a Muslim who's watching this show, try and learn ways to avoid riba. Every one of your children, you should be putting money aside so that when they get to university, you can pay for it yourself. You can't just say, "Oh well, I'm forced to get a student loan." You're not forced, brother or sister. could have started saving right now, so that by the time you get to that age, you have the money to spend for it, and guaranteed. Listen carefully, mark my words. Guaranteed, if you have the money to pay for your university degree, you may actually decide not to go uni.
Mm.
You'll be like, you know what?
Exactly. Yeah.
£27,000 on this, I can probably use it. I can start a business instead.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
You may even do that. But because
Mm.
student loans, you don't pay for it now, you pay for it later on, you do it. You do it because it's free, because in your mind, it's a different decision. Anyway, I rant on, and I don't want to rant too much. So inshallah,
Jazakallah khair.
hopefully I've annoyed some, but forgive me if I have.
Alhamdulillah, it's another great interview, 1 hour 40 minutes. Jazakallah khair. So, where do you, if people want to like message you or reach out or whatever, um, where should they connect with you? And also, do you still do the consulting stuff? Like, say if someone says, like, look, I'm fully sold on this whole Bitcoin thing, yeah, just help me, guide me through the process. Do you still do that service, or where should people go? You don't?
No. It's too
Okay.
much hassle because 99.9% of people who pay for these consultant fees were only asking about this crap coin and that crap coin, this altcoin, and I'm like,
That's true.
wallahi, brother, wallahi, listen carefully, yeah? I got a call from a brother who paid about 100 quid for half an hour. What do you want to ask me about a coin called Wife Doge? I said, what? He said, Wife Doge. I said, what's Wife Doge? He said, Wife Doge. He gave me the link, the URL. I went to the URL. It was a website about this coin, which was the wife of Dogecoin. I said, brother, are you serious? So yeah, I had it to go up. I said, bro, what do you mean wife? Bro, I'm not joking. It had a picture of a dog, which is Doge coin, and another dog, the same coin, with like a wedding dress and lipstick on, and it was the wife Doge. And he's asking me if we should invest in wife Doge. Wallahi, I wasn't sure if he was trolling me or what. I said, brother, are you really serious? You're actually considering throwing money at this? And then he surprised me by telling me he's already bought it. I said, what? What are you? What? The guy bought wife Doge. I said, bruv.
To the moon, innit?
I said, has it gone up? He said, no, it's gone down. I said, just sell it, bruv. Just sell it. No, but my friend is telling me if we put more money in, it'll make money. I said, no, don't put more money in, brother. Don't. Just take your money out. Otherwise, it's gone.
Yeah.
So I got sick and tired of people asking me nonsense. And all my advice has been the same thing. Bruv, get rid of those coins, stick to Bitcoin. No, stick to Bitcoin. No, stick to Bitcoin. Only one brother, mashallah, may Allah reward him. He actually came back to me after because he was very he had 2 coins. He was adamant. He paid for a whole hour consultation. We went through the website, went through the whole program, and read point by point, read the whole page. I said to him, bro, this one's a scam, and this one's a Ponzi. And he said, bro, are you sure? He was on the fence, but he alhamdulillah, he took the advice. He said to me, if I had never said it, he would have stayed with it. But because he paid and because he trusted my advice, took my advice, and he said within weeks of that, they went to zero. And he said, Jazakallah khair, brother, you saved me from collapse. And alhamdulillah. I mean, you didn't even have to pay me for that. You could just I've got tons of videos saying the same thing. Just stick to Bitcoin. Forget all this nonsense rubbish. So
Mm.
as for consultation, not anymore, because I'm just taking money for no reason. I'm going to give you the
Mm.
same advice I give for free. Stick to Bitcoin. If anything, build a business, a functioning business where you actually do something, produce a product, provide a service, and get paid in Bitcoin. That's my only advice to you. Build something using Bitcoin, or build something on top of Bitcoin. Build a service online that uses Bitcoin for some reason, either investment or whatever. Just do something useful, but don't just buy a coin and go to the moon. That's just nonsense talk. So none of that anymore. As
Mm.
for get in contact with me, then not really. I mean, I'm on Twitter. You can contact me on Twitter. Just send me a tweet and I might reply.
Mm.
But as for consultation, bro, the question, brother, can I stake X, Y, and Z? Yes, man.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, Jazakallah khair for your time. Really
No worries,
enjoyed
bro.
it and learned a lot. And yeah, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Take care, brother.
Take care.